Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So in my last update about Twist of Fate, Rhea finally confessed that she is not pregnant and she only lied to everyone. Then Aliyah was kind of disappointed because Rhea lied to her in the beginning as well. So let's continue from there. After their plans failed, Rhea blames Aliyah and says that she is really pathetic. Aliyah asks Rhea to control herself. Rhea asks Aliyah to control herself instead. She says, I would handle Prachi and I don't need your advice. Aliyah says enough and she asks Rhea to be quiet. Rhea says this is too much as I trusted you more. Aliyah asks Rhea to be quiet else she has to see more bad days than this. Rhea says I heard you and I fell in my sight. She says I have to use my fake pregnancy to throw Prachi out of the house. Rhea says my fake baby would help me to get my right. She goes from there. Aliyah thinks that how can my calculation be wrong? She thinks that Grandma must have stopped Prachi from leaving the house. She says she would do something, that Grandma would ask Prachi to go from the house during Pallavi's birthday party. Prachi and Ranbir collide with each other and the flowers falls on them. Prachi turns to go but she falls. Ranbir saves her and asks her to walk carefully. Ranbir says I will not be there to protect you always. Prachi says you were never there for me because you have to take care of your pregnant wife. Stanley admires Ranbir and Prachi and he thinks that they are good together. Ranbir holds Prachi's hand. Prachi asks Ranbir to leave her hand. Ranbir tells Prachi that he is tired of hearing everyone's threat and says that he is tired of hearing everyone's instructions. Ranbir asks Prachi not to threaten him to leave her hand next time. Ranbir asks Stanley to show the equations. Aliyah says to herself that Rhea is my only family, but when my family talks badly with me, then how will I bear it? She says I asked Rhea to do that to undo Prachi. My plan backfired and Rhea and my relationship is getting affected too. Aliyah says I will make such a place that Grandma could never think of. Aliyah says to herself that I will not let Rhea fail and I myself will not fail. She calls someone for the birthday celebrations and she laughs. Prachi comes to Ranbir and asks if Ranbir doesn't understand. Ranbir asks Prachi to say it. Prachi asks Ranbir not to look at her. Ranbir asks if this is High Court decision. Prachi says no, it is the Supreme Court. Ranbir asks Stanley if it is a crime to see his wife. Stanley says it is love. Prachi goes. Ranbir asks Stanley if it was written on the net. Stanley says no and says the way you look at Prachi is love. Ranbir says if you were a girl, then I would have kissed you. Ranbir laughs. Prachi looks at Ranbir and she sees Grandma colliding with a pillar and she stops her. Grandma is watching DID Super Mom. Prachi says it is my favorite program and she promotes it. Ranbir says she is lovely. Rhea fumes with anger. Aliyah thinks that Rhea is not wrong. They are not letting her live peacefully. Ranbir continues to stare at Prachi. Prachi recalls Rhea's words and she calls her. She says you think me wrong always. I want your happiness. Rhea says it is clearly visible and she asks Prachi to stay away from her and she should stop her drama of a dear sister. Prachi asks Rhea to listen to her. Aliyah says to Prachi that Rhea doesn't want to talk to you. She is pregnant, so don't give her attention. Prachi tells Aliyah that they are twin sisters. Rhea and her destiny are connected with each other and there are many things which I don't think I should tell you. She says we will sort out our problems. Aliyah asks Prachi to talk to Rhea and see if Rhea will want to talk to her. Rhea asks Prachi not to say a word and says if you really want my happiness, then you would have gone away from this house. Prachi tries to stop Rhea, but Rhea goes away from there. Grandma asks Prachi that what is the matter. Prachi says nothing and she asks Grandma to finalize the design. Ranbir looks at Prachi. Rhea goes to her room. Pallavi asks, did Prachi tell you something? She asks, why are you crying? Rhea asks Pallavi not to act as stupid and says you are liking Prachi and that is why Prachi talked to me this way. Rhea says to Pallavi that nobody cares for my baby. Only I have taken care of my baby. Aliyah comes there and asks, what are you saying? Rhea tells Pallavi that she would have asked Prachi to leave when she got her pregnancy news, but you did not do that. She says whenever I see Prachi, I feel afraid about my baby. Pallavi says to Rhea that you don't need to be afraid. I already asked Grandma to ask Prachi to leave. Rhea says you would have told Prachi yourself, but it is not appearing as if someone is hearing you. She says it might be my mistake that she is someone else, but I am saying Prachi, it is the pregnancy side effect. Pallavi asks Rhea not to cry and says I will make everything fine. Rhea says she is feeling vomitish and unwell. Pallavi asks Aaliyah to sit with Rhea and says she will talk to Ranbir and she will call the doctor. Rhea wipes her fake tears and sits on the sofa. Aaliyah asks, "Are you okay?" Rhea smiles and says, "I am okay. I did this as I wanted to send Pallavi away." Grandma asks the designers for other designs. Ranbir admires Prachi as she is busy decorating the house. A song plays in the background. Grandma sees Stanley smiling at Ranbir and she coughs. Ranbir asks, "Do you want water?" Pallavi comes to Ranbir and asks him to call the doctor and says Rhea is unwell and she is feeling dizzy and her lips are crying too. Prachi tells Pallavi that medicines are not good for Rhea. I will make something for her. Pallavi asks Ranbir to call the doctor. Ranbir says Prachi said that she will make something for Rhea. Pallavi says she will call the doctor herself then. Aaliyah asks Rhea why she blamed her too. Rhea says she blamed her to make Pallavi think that she is upset with everyone. She says she did this drama so that Pallavi doesn't do this again. Aaliyah says Pallavi will do anything now because her life is in you. Rhea says to Aaliyah that I am not interested in Pallavi, but I am interested to see what Ranbir will do, what it does for me, and says she is giving him happiness of becoming a father. Aaliyah says that Ranbir is not behaving like a would-be father would behave. Rhea says to Aaliyah that Ranbir will definitely behave like a father soon because he is a good person and his goodness is his weakness. I will put him in guilt and he has to do everything I say. Rhea says good people doesn't do bad things with the opposite person, even if they have to bear all the pain. Rhea says to Aaliyah that she is not pregnant, but she would pretend to be weak and she would act as if she is bearing so much in pregnancy. Rhea says I will sit holding Ranbir's hand. Prachi comes there and asks Rhea to drink something to get rid of vomiting sensation. Rhea drinks it. Prachi says to Rhea that you might not have eaten anything since morning and she asks her to have soup made by her. She makes her drink it. Ranbir says that Prachi herself is pregnant and she is taking care of Rhea, because of whom she has to leave the house. Grandma comes to Ranbir. Rhea says aunt will make me drink and she asks Prachi to go. Prachi turns to go and she sees Ranbir standing. She says Rhea is fine, don't worry. Prachi thinks that why is nobody asking me like this? I am having Ranbir's first child. Ranbir thinks that why did Prachi not tell everyone about her pregnancy? Grandma is going to her room and she sees Ranbir sitting on the floor. Ranbir says that he was restless and emotional. Ranbir blames himself for snatching Prachi's happiness and peace. Ranbir says Prachi doesn't complain about this and she did the opposite of it. Ranbir says she has taken care of Rhea and Prachi herself is unwell and she is doing decoration of mommy's birthday. Ranbir says that Prachi always take care of everyone and he asks that why will anyone be so good? Ranbir says if someone does bad with me, then I wouldn't have stand in front of that person. Ranbir says Prachi is good and her concern for Rhea was from her heart and she treated Rhea nicely as she is pregnant with my child. Then why does Prachi not behave nicely with me? And he asks himself, am I that bad? Prachi comes there and she hears Ranbir and she cries. Ranbir turns and looks at Prachi. Ranbir asks that why did Prachi hate him? Your hatred for Rhea changed into love. And he asks if I am not your husband. You did not break relationship with Rhea, but you broke relationship with me. Why? Pallavi comes to the room. Aaliyah says that Rhea is in the bathroom. Rhea comes out and she thinks that her mother-in-law is after her. Pallavi says that she has talked to the doctor and the doctor said that it is absolutely fine. Pallavi asks Rhea to rest well. Pallavi asks that how was the soup that Prachi prepared for Rhea. Rhea says that the soup was so horrible. Neither the soup nor Prachi's behavior is digestible. She says she doesn't want Prachi to take care of her. Aaliyah says that Prachi might do something to Rhea out of jealousy. Pallavi says I don't have that feeling, at least for Rhea's child, and says you both are just overthinking. Aaliyah says you should go and let Rhea rest. Pallavi asks Aaliyah to let them go. Aaliyah and Pallavi goes out. Aaliyah comes back and she asks Rhea to behave nicely with Pallavi and she should not be irritated with her. Rhea says okay. Ranbir asks Prachi why she ate him. Prachi goes from there. Ranbir goes behind Prachi and says if you hate me, then you should hate Rhea too. Ranbir says Rhea is your sister and he asks if I am nothing to you. Ranbir says when you talk to Rhea nicely, then why can't you talk to me nicely? Prachi says to Ranbir that it is enough and says there is a difference between blood relationship and faith relationship. Ranbir says God makes the union. Prachi says we have to fulfill the relationships, but we have to live by the blood. Ranbir says to Prachi that my breath is related to you. Prachi says to fulfill love, we have to keep the love alive, which you will not understand. Prachi hurt her leg and Ranbir lifted Prachi to take her to the room. Vikram comes home. Pallavi says you are back home. Vikram says you are going to see me super happy. He talks about his dream project and he thanks Pallavi for giving him son like Ranbir. He says Ranbir is working good and he is adding stars to his project. He says I want to retire and give the work stress to Ranbir. Pallavi asks Vikram not to give Ranbir stress. Ranbir carried Prachi. Prachi asks Ranbir to keep her down. Ranbir asks why did you wear heel? Prachi says she was hit by the table. Shahana looks at them. Prachi asks Shahana not to think wrong. Ranbir says he is taking care of Prachi because he loves her very much. Ranbir takes Prachi to the room and makes her sit on the bed. Ranbir asks that in this condition, and he quickly corrected himself and says, I mean that you should not wear heels, but flat slippers. Ranbir asks Shahana to bring flat slippers. Shahana goes. Ranbir asks Prachi to drink water. Prachi refuses and says that Ranbir should not think what he is thinking. Ranbir says to Prachi that we are a good married couple and I know that you know it. Prachi asks Ranbir to leave. Ranbir says I will lie down on the bed. Prachi says you are not my husband. Ranbir asks if I am not your husband, then why do you have to apply sindoor and wedding necklace? Ranbir asks Prachi to show the divorce papers. Prachi says she likes fashion. Ranbir asks Prachi to prove that he is not her husband. Ranbir asks Prachi not to make him angry and says you are my wife. Ranbir says you cannot prove that I am not your husband. You cannot prove in any of the bad. Prachi says I have to give Ranbir answer wearing heels and she goes behind him. Ranbir turns to Prachi and he put her hair behind her ear. Prachi asks what is he doing? Ranbir says I am admiring you. Ranbir looks at Prachi's heels and makes her sit on his lap. Prachi asks what are you doing? Ranbir says you will not wear these heels and he takes it from her. Prachi asks that what did Ranbir think of himself? Shahana sees them and she hides. Ranbir thinks that Prachi will turn and look at me. Prachi will come back to me. Ranbir says turn. Prachi turns to look at Ranbir again and she goes back to him. Shahana thinks that what is going on? Prachi knocks on the door. Ranbir asks Prachi to come in. Ranbir says I don't want any argument and says I don't want you to wear heels. Prachi asks why should I not wear heel? Ranbir thinks that Prachi is pregnant and she shouldn't wear heels. But Ranbir lied to Prachi that if she wear heels, then Rhea would also want to wear it. Ranbir says to Prachi that I don't want you to wear heels so that Rhea will not want to wear it too. Prachi says it is a lame excuse and she calls him shameless to laugh. He asks, what did I do? Prachi says Rhea is pregnant with your child. Ranbir says I want to fulfill my third dream with you and I want our baby to call me father. Ranbir says to Prachi that I want us to have our love memory too and says that his feelings was truthful. Prachi says you are not my husband. Ranbir says I will never divorce you and I want to be called as your husband. Prachi asks what would happen to your Rhea then? Rhea comes there and says Rhea would have a baby, which would be the sign of Rhea and Ranbir's love. Ranbir and Prachi looks at Rhea. Rhea asks Prachi what she was doing and if she was impressing Ranbir. Rhea asks if Prachi wanted to snatch my baby's father from me and says I know that I am thinking right and she goes. Prachi blames Ranbir for this. Ranbir asks that why can't Prachi talk to me nicely? Shahana thinks that she likes Ranbir and Prachi's fight. It is cute. She sees Stanley coming out of the room. She is about to fall. Stanley is about to hold Shahana. Shahana scolds him and says that she hates guys. Stanley says I understand and says I like progressive society. Stanley says love can happen with anyone and love has no boundaries. Shahana asks that what is Stanley doing there? Stanley says that he is going to stay here for a project that Ranbir ordered him to do. Shahana says Prachi asks her to stay for a project too. Stanley says we are on the same board. Shahana goes. Prachi tries to stop Rhea, but Rhea pretends to go out of the house and Prachi finally stops Rhea. Rhea says to Prachi that I asked you to leave this house for the sake of my baby, but you did not leave. Rhea says someone has to go from this house and that is why I am leaving, because the wife and the other woman cannot stay in the same house and that is why I am leaving for you. Prachi looks at Rhea in shock. This is definitely another emotional game that Rhea is trying to play with Prachi. So Rhea is pretending to want to leave the house so that Prachi can leave the house for her. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and share it.